Okay, welcome everybody. Sorry for the small technical difficulties there and the delayed start. I'm Chris Ochoa. I'm the Senior Counsel for Codes and Regulatory and Legislative Affairs at CBIA, and I want to welcome you today to our Building Decarbonization Incentives webinar. So first, let me tell you a little bit about CBIA. Was established in 1943 as a federation of local and regional associations representing builders at the state level. We're a statewide trade association. We have members from all over the building industry, as you can see here, contractors, architects, engineers, in addition to builders, et cetera. We believe in housing for all, and our members build nearly 90% of the new residential construction in the state of California. Next one. This is just a little slide about CBI's impact on the industry and what we do statewide as far as legislative efforts, as well as in the building code sector and regulatory affairs. And we'll do a little introduction of our speakers. Here we go. And this is why we wanted to bring you all here today, is we wanted to give our members an opportunity to hear from these experts on all of the incentives that are out there for decarbonization. So the purpose of today is to hear from these experts and hear about federal, state, and local incentive opportunities so that you're fully aware of what's out there as far as decarbonization incentives and how to apply for them and take advantage of those incentives. I will say, as we before I introduce our first speaker, that any questions that you have today, we should have a little bit of time at the end for question and answer period. So if you have questions during the presentations, during the webinar, please put them in the Q&A box, and we'll get to as many as we can at the end. And also, before I introduce our first speaker, we're going to have two poll questions today. So we're going to throw up the first poll question. So if all of you wouldn't mind in answering this first question that's going to be put up, we'd appreciate it. So hopefully you can see that, and we'd appreciate you filling that in before we get started. All right. Wide range there. This is great. Okay. Thank you for that. And without further ado, let me introduce our first speaker, Bob Johnson. Bob's been with Cheers since 2011 and oversees the Cheers Title 24 registry operations. And also over the past 4 years has helped builders receive 45L tax credits using approved DOE MicroPass software. Bob is now focused on the Energy Star and ZERH pathways for builders so that they can receive up to $5,000 in tax credits through the Cheers Energy Star process. So Bob, take it away, please.
Thanks, Chris. Good morning, everyone. My name is Bob Johnson, and as Chris said, I'm on the team here at Cheers. I'm going to give a high-level overview of these federal incentive programs. Perfect. So we're going to review EPA Energy Star program and the DOE Zero Energy Ready programs, and how those programs are going to add up to a federal tax credit of $5,000 for California builders. So next slide. So let's go back in time. So just to review quickly, the 45L tax credit, the old requirements. So that 45L tax credit is an energy saving tax credit. So you had to meet certain criteria. It did end the beginning of 2023. So the old tax credit was $2,000. It was had to be processed through a DOE approved 45L software. There were many of them. It had to be certified by a HERS rater. The qualifying dwelling units had to be 3 stories or less. So anything 4 stories or more couldn't get the tax credit. Could be a multifamily project, could be a single family project, both qualified. The tax credit could be used up to 20 years. Dwellings had to be sold or rented before 1/1/2023. But if you are on this call and you're a builder and you didn't know about the 45L tax credit, you can go back 3 years. So if you have homes that were not certified for the 45L tax credit before 2023, get a hold of me, we'll talk, and we'll get you these credits. So let's look at the program now. So with the new Inflation Reduction Act, the program changed. So now the requirement to get this tax credit, the 45L tax credit, is through Energy Star. That went into effect January 1st, 2023, and it's good for 10 years, which is really cool because we don't have to wait and see if it gets extended, another 3 years and another 3 years. So it's 10 years that this tax credit will be available. And the tax credit is up to $5,000 per home now. With the combination of Energy Star and Zero Energy Ready, you can get up to a $5,000 tax credit. The only caveat is multifamily buildings now have to be prevailing wages to get that same amount. If they're not prevailing wage, then they only get a $500 tax credit per Energy Star and per Zero Energy Ready for a total of $1,000. One other thing that I'll add here is that a multifamily building 4 stories or more can also qualify for the tax credit, but that's a different program and I'm not going to cover it today, but just thought I'd throw that out there. So next slide. Perfect. So again, California is different than other states. There's a national program for Energy Star and there's a California program for Energy Star. So California has different requirements. You as the builder need to know what these requirements are. These are all of these requirements are available on the Energy Star site. You can download these project requirements. There are different versions, and the versions depend on when that home was permitted or plan approval date. So you need to make sure that you have those correct versions for whatever home that you are building. Next slide. Again, with Energy Star, Zero Energy Ready has their own California program requirements. So these requirements are specific to the state of California, mainly because they're actually aligned with the state's energy code. So with the Title 24 energy code, which is different than other states, of course. So that's why they have different. California has different or more specific versions just for California. So what is your next step as a builder? Next slide. Cool. So register. So you can register on the Energy Star site as an Energy Star partner. You have to do this, but there's no cost to you as the builder. Even if you're just thinking about doing it, just register. It's free. One of the things that the builder does have to do is confirm that your project meets the water management requirements. There's one form that tells you what these requirements are. There's really not a checklist. It's just the one form. We recommend that you review it to make sure that you do meet these requirements. So the next 2 are the most important. Is you need to work with your energy consultant to verify that the project meets the performance targets. And there's 2 ways to do that. One is through the EDR, has to be either 3 points or better, or a compliance margin of 10%. And that is comparing it to the previous code year and by a CEC compliant or approved CEC compliance software. So that's really kind of your energy consultant's role. If you want to be Zero Energy Ready, it needs to be 15% or 4 EDR points better. And I recommend that's what you do to see whether you can actually qualify for the full $5,000. Also, the HERS rater has to complete a checklist. And is the person that is going to verify that the project actually meets the Energy Star requirements. And the Zero Energy Ready plus Indoor Air Plus, which is another requirement of Zero Energy Ready. But the HERS rater also needs to be brought in to your project, hopefully prior to construction, to do this review as well to make sure that you have met all of those requirements. So it's important to get those 2 people together in a room if you can, and just make sure that you're qualifying. Because if at the end of the day, after the homes are built, it's hard to go back and get them qualified. So you need to make sure this is all done up front. So next step. So how can Cheers help? Well, Cheers is a HERS provider in California, and we're directly approved by the EPA and the DOE to certify Energy Star and Zero Energy Ready homes. So what happens is when a project actually gets registered with Cheers, it can be easily evaluated for Energy Star and Zero Energy Ready. We do offer the Energy Star and Zero Energy certifications at no additional cost to the builder. Checklists for all of these programs are actually built into the registry. So all of these checklists are stored with all of your other Title 24 documents in one convenient place. Again, this basically completes my presentation. If you do have more questions or need more information, please contact us and we'd be glad to give you a personal presentation if you like. Again, thanks for your time, and I'm signing off. Back to you, Chris.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Bob. Our second speaker today is Melinda Dinnan. Melinda is the marketing manager at TRC and manages the California Energy Smart Homes and California Electric Homes program engagement campaigns to influence residential new construction decision makers to adopt all electric new construction practices. Melinda has almost 8 years of energy efficiency marketing experience. Melinda, go ahead, please.
All right. Good morning, and thank you for the introduction. I'm excited to share some high-level details on incentive programs available for all electric residential new construction programs here in California. All right, we're going to start with California Electric Homes, also known as CalEHP, and the focus is on all electric rather than above code new construction. This program, CalEHP, serves market rate. That's the operative word, all electric residential new construction projects up and down California. So it's the entire state. And the program is funded through a budget line item. So I've listed the eligibility here for incentives. So all of these requirements, including that 100% all electric residential building, needs to be incorporated, and that's that heat pump space heating and cooling, induction cooking, thermostatic mixing valves, segregated circuits, and communicating thermostats. The program also is designed for technical assistance. It's included, it's at no cost, and it can be delivered at any stage during design or construction to help support program participation or your project team designing or constructing the house. So this is available and included. The program also includes a base energy storage incentive. So there is $10 million for the program that's dedicated to incentive energy storage. So we've got battery storage today and thermal energy storage is coming soon. I've got here our base electrification incentives. So the top part is for market rate properties, and the lower section is for market rate properties that are located in a disadvantaged community or a hard to reach community. And the importance of this is to build up communities. So we've got all kinds of industry and all kinds of people living in one jurisdiction. So again, it's market rate properties located in these areas, and the incentives are slightly higher. They cannot be added on top of each other. Okay, we also have bonus measure incentives. So this is for those builders building above code. This is a per dwelling unit bonus. So you can see for including, let's just say a smart panel, that's $1,500 additional per unit. All right, quickly, this is how you contact our California Electric Homes resources. Reach out. I'm happy to go through this again and again. And I have one more program. Next up is California Energy Smart Homes. Now this program is available for single family, multifamily low rise. So that's up to 3 stories and ADUs in the 3 IOU electric territories. So that's PG&E, Southern California Edison, and San Diego Gas and Electric. The program is funded by the CPUC. I also want to bring to your attention that new construction projects can enroll through December 31st of 2026. So that gives you the opportunity to still finish your projects. Quickly, here's the program prerequisites and eligibility requirements for those single family homes. Very similar to Cal EHP. It requires the space heating and cooling to be utilizing heat pump technology. So that's really important. Okay, here we go with multifamily. So this is again for up to 3 stories. And if you have a project that's 4 stories or more, maybe mid-rise or high-rise, there is another program. It's called the California Energy Design Assistance. It's called CEDA, and I can connect you with them as well. They have some design incentives for electric construction as well. So let me know if I can make an introduction. All right, this is what everybody's been waiting for. And just yesterday, these incentive dollars increased for 2024 onward. And the reason they increased is they mirror the Cal EHP incentive dollars. So if a project is located in both areas, we're going to help make sure that the incentive is shared between the 2 programs to stretch those incentive dollars further. Nothing on your end. The program incentives, they step down each year, and you can request incentive dollars as your projects finish, and that's when you receive a certificate of occupancy. So if you've got 1 building complete, or you've got maybe 20 lots complete, we'll get you paid out in the year that they complete. Okay. Elevating electrification. So a few quick questions. Are you interested in learning more about the benefits of all electric? Does your design team still think that mixed fuel is a better option because they think it's cheaper? Or could your sales team benefit from a short all electric is better training? If yes, reach out. We have virtual no cost trainings that I can do in 30 minutes or on a staff meeting, or just to help educate that all electric is better. I'll talk about the financial benefits and the health advantages. So please reach out. I will put my contact information in, and this is how to reach us for California Energy Smart Homes. And then I'm going to wrap it up. So thank you for the opportunity. And it's hard to give away free money. So reach out. I'd love to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Melinda. That was great. All right. Before we move on to our next speaker, we do have our second and final poll question that we're going to post up here on the screen in a moment. We hope you'd answer that for us, and then we'll introduce the next speaker. So just give us a moment and we'll get that poll question up here. And there you go. If you can take a moment to please answer that, we'd appreciate it. All right. Quite a bit of interest in getting more involved. Appreciate that. Thank you for answering. And now we'll get to our local utilities and hear what they have to say about incentives for decarbonization and electrification. So our next speaker, Conrad Asper, is the California Energy Smart Homes Program Manager for PG&E. He provides program oversight and direction to ensure the program supports California's advanced energy efficiency policy goals. Prior to joining PG&E, Conrad served as Executive Director of Energy First California, a trade organization that trains and advocates for home performance contractors and the public in home energy efficiency strategies that combat global warming and climate change. All right, Conrad, go ahead, please.
Hey, thanks, Chris. Appreciate that. As we all know, and we're here today to discuss, the state of California has identified building electrification as a primary tool to meet its climate change goals. And PG&E is responding to that. We're responding to these policy goals by supporting the state, next slide, in moving toward building electrification. We agree that all electric new buildings are good for our customers, good for the climate, and good for California's future. And with regard to retrofits, we also recognize that retrofit building electrification is an important tool for meeting California's climate goals. Recognizing the importance of co-creating this building decarbonization future with stakeholders like you, we do know we're all in this together, and we need to be supporting and understanding where there's pressure points and whatnot in the market. And in order to do this and support our customers and our stakeholders, PG&E is putting together, or has put together, resources towards customer education and support for building electrification. We have stood up tools on our website for customer education. And we also have a 13-page electrification guide, handy guide to home electrification. I should note that all of these in this slide deck do have links, so you can check them out when we send around the presentation. So this 13-page guide does lay out the customer journey for electrification. Through the guide, you can learn more about home electrification projects. You can evaluate what upgrades you can make and review the electrification process. And we always ask that you do try to engage early with PG&E on the home electrification journey. And for our next slide, we have further resources available through the funding through different state IOU programs. The first one that I wanted to mention is the Energy Code ACE program. It's through the California Codes and Standards Compliance Improvement Group. And generally, we try to make compliance easier and faster through training, tools, and resources. And next slide, some of the resources available are, we do have a checklist, which building inspector checklist, and some view this as kind of a cheat sheet for builders to understand what building inspectors are going to prioritize during field inspections for these energy efficient and electrification homes. And then there's a number of fact sheets, and these are useful, thorough, plain English guides with key terms and compliance requirements. So I definitely direct you to those links to find out more about the Energy Code ACE electrification guides and fact sheets. Then the next slide, wanting to make sure you're aware of our free courses, the workforce education and training. PG&E Energy Centers provide professional training on demand courses and real-time access to industry experts at no cost. Please do sign up. There's a link here. Sign up for access to account and then classes as they come available. Again, these are all free classes. The ones I pulled here, just for reference, we have a whole ton of them on the through the catalog, but the ones I pulled here are for heat pump space heating and heat pump water heating. And there's both on-demand trainings, and then there's also live webinars coming up, so you can see those. And then finally, I did want to mention that, I wanted to share that we worked with CBIA on a joint memo, which created an outline that commits to reducing delays associated with energizing new homes. We've worked with CBIA on this, and generally this memo of understanding works towards getting homes connected faster with better customer experience. And at PG&E, we recognize that the state's drive towards electrification and building electrification is happening, and we're working with our stakeholders like CBIA to support our customers in that journey. And in the last few moments, I just want to reiterate the links here that we have available to check out these resources above and beyond the incentives, the rich incentives that Melinda had just introduced and explained through the statewide residential new construction program. Thanks, and I'll let you have the floor back, Chris.
Great. Thank you, Conrad. Appreciate that information. Our next speaker is from SMUD. Ray Nalangan is a senior architect for the Sacramento Municipal Utility District. He works to support the adoption of utility-scale solar energy and to implement high-performance, carbon-reducing, energy-efficient design practices within SMUD's territory. Ray combines his knowledge of design, construction, and building codes to help developers and their design teams work with SMUD to optimize a building's energy performance and sustainability. All right, Ray, take it away, please.
All right. Thanks, Chris, and appreciate being here. We'll just go ahead and keep drilling down in terms of scale here and talk about it at a very local level. So let's just go ahead and get into the next slide, please. A little bit about SMUD first. All of this, I think you guys can read for yourselves, but what I will point out is we're the 6th largest publicly owned utility in the country. I think it's kind of an interesting contrast in scales in terms of our size as a public utility versus kind of the IOUs and the vast majority of how electricity and energy is generated in the country. But we're a 7-member board, and our mission is zero carbon by 2030. We like to say it's the most ambitious goal in the country, and I do think we are. That is true. Next slide, please. So that really kind of sets up the context for these incentives. We have our zero carbon plan. There are 4 major areas of focus, and the programs that I'm going to talk about live in the new technologies and business models. And I think, again, I'm just going to stress our mission to zero carbon and some of the kind of the reasons that we are so committed to this pathway. Next slide, please. So it's going to sound very familiar, given Melinda's presentation a little bit earlier, and we like to think that imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. So I think we might have had some influence on how Cal EHP was shaped. But what I'd like to point out here is that the program started in mid-2018. We were, and through the first 2 or 3 years, we completed 979 single-family, multifamily units. And am I missing something? Kayla, I can't hear you.
Hang on there.
Sure.
There we go.
So if we could go back one. A couple of more, I think, back to that original posting. We are heading, well, you're all seeing a preview of the rest of the presentation.
We won't count the time against you, Ray.
Okay, I'll reset my timer. Great. One more. There we go. Okay. So What actually, I guess we'll just let's stay on this slide. And I'll say in 2018, to 2021, maybe 1,000 units. In the last 2 or 3 years, we're at, I think we finished 1,800 units last year. We're going to be about that pace this year. And what I would point out is it's just sort of a hockey stick if you were to graph the rise of completions in our territory. And I think just from a market share standpoint, it's a little bit under 10% of the single family homes in our area in any given year are in the program, and we're much higher, probably in the 30% to 40% range in the multifamily segment. And so again, like the other programs, it really is not an above code program, and it's really all about electrification and zero carbon. And so the key technology here is heat pumps for everything. We do have bonuses for induction cooking. There are some options for PV participation in our neighborhood solar shares program, which is something I'll talk about a little bit later. And we also have some electric vehicle charging options for level 2 chargers in the program. So induction cooking in particular, that's kind of a more of a fungible type thing. In 2023, it's a bonus. And as we go forward into 24 and 25, it becomes a requirement. Next slide, please. Benefits to the builders and homeowners. Again, I think what the point of this slide is that it's really straightforward for the builders. There are a lot of flexible design benefits to it. And for a homeowner, it's an innovative home, and more importantly, it's a money-saving home. I think in our own measurement and verifications, our actuals in the first few years, we were able to verify that the average, more or less the average savings is about $400 per home per year for an all-electric home in our territory. Next slide, please. So here are the incentives. Again, it's similar to Cal EHP in that incentives decline year over year. That decline is probably a little bit steeper. Again, if you were going to compare these things on a graph, we decline a little bit faster, but end up around the same place. We're funded through 2025, so I have the authority to execute agreements through 2025. What I can tell you is that we believe we'll do another 3-year increment and are in planning for that scenario now. The single family homes from a maximum of 4,400 in 2023 down to 2,900 in 2025. Multifamily, a little bit more stable in terms of their amounts, but that kind of reflects the longer time period for these types of projects from design to execution. 25% bonus is available for affordable housing. So we do market and affordable housing types in our territory. Next slide, please. So just real quick detail on EVs. And again, this is probably a terrible slide with the amount of text on it, but what I wanted to point out was it's a very straightforward requirement. It's basically a code requirement, a level 2 hardwired charger. And I think our information is telling us that we basically cover a great part of the cost of the equipment. Next slide. And we'll really dig into the weeds. This is one of my favorite examples here, but as in Cal EHP, we have a design assistance component to our program. We really want to see ourselves as a partner. So I'm an architect by training. We have mechanical engineers in-house. This is the first high-rise with a central heat pump hot water heater in our territory. We were involved early, and every once in a while I get to be an architect again. So we worked with the designers. We did the initial capacity study and a layout for them, which is kind of the drawing you see in the corner there, and it basically changed the design from a resistance type approach to a heat pump approach. And for the tech heads on this call, the demand reduction on it was around 70%. So that reflected itself in kind of the infrastructure for the building. One of the most clever things that this project does is it harvests sort of the waste heat from the parking garage, which is on the ground level. As you probably all know, the heat pumps take ambient heat and put it into the water. And so it was a very clever design, and it was something that happened because we were involved early and that we had a collaborative relationship. So we want to be just more than a source of funds. We want to be a partner in helping you achieve the best possible design that you can within the constraints that you have. Next slide, please. Pretty simple process. A TRC is actually our third-party plan implementer. So often we like to be involved very early. So we typically track that in what we call our pre-application cohort. And then that moves on into the various phases of the project. The reason this one is here is that we have a kind of a two-tiered approach. Incentives for above 150,000 get a longer form agreement. It basically locks it in. I will tell you, we do not have a cap on our agreement. So we recently executed a neighborhood with Kehoe-Vananian for almost $2 million over the next 2.5 years or so, largest to date, and really kind of indicative of how much velocity we're seeing in our territory. And the three projects there, we're really able to address all scales of housing in the program. Next slide, please. Not just design assistance and financial incentives, but also builder support. So tenant education, marketing support. The Building Smart Homes Together sign there is about a 4-foot by 8-foot construction sign. These are all provided at no cost to the builder or the developer, and always happy to support inventive ways to do things as well. So this is just kind of what we have on hand. And we often work with marketing teams to kind of tailor approaches to their needs. Next slide. So one of the complementary programs, it's not necessarily an incentive program, but it is a carbon-free kind of approach, and it is a approach only in our territory, since we are the only utility operating the community scale solar option at this time. But essentially, it is a way to comply with the Title 24 solar mandate without having to install a PV panel on site. You essentially subscribe to the production from a dedicated array in our territory. And what a builder does is they reserve capacity on the system for the future homeowners or tenants in the case of multifamily buildings. And there's actually no constructive or physical array that is put on the building. And at its basic form, it is a zero cost option. It's zero cost compliance option to the builder. Next slide, please. It basically mirrors the stages in the permitting process. So applications and agreements start with the building permit application. And then by final inspections, we issue the last bit of paperwork that the jurisdictions rely on to do their final inspections and issue the certificates of occupancy. Next slide, please. Benefits are kind of there, and I'm sure that we can all go through all of these, but I think one of my favorites is just that rain or shine. Right, it's a guaranteed production because it's a utility scale, large scale system, and actually I'll pick one more. Turns out people like trees and shade and that sort of thing, and so it's particularly useful for existing neighborhoods when there are maybe a single family or an infill type project, and actually it's really probably most effective for the multifamilies due to the kind of limited roof space and that sort of thing. So we do 3 stories and below, single family, ADUs, that kind of stuff. We do not have the ability to serve the high rise segment at this time. And I think we can go to the next slide. Contact information. Always happy to talk to potential customers and share what we have going on. Thanks again for the opportunity to present in front of you today.
Thank you for that, Ray. Really appreciate it, and SMUD's participation. Our final presenter today is Vicki Velasquez from Southern California Edison. She's a program manager in the Customer Generation Incentive Program department there at SCE. She's program manager also for the New Home Energy Storage Pilot and also supports the self-generation incentive program by overseeing the operations, metrics, and as a liaison with the engineering technical team. So, Vicky, please take it away. Do we have Vicky?
Hi, are you guys able to hear me now?
Yes. Go ahead, Vicky.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you. And apologies, I have been experiencing some technical difficulties here, so I wasn't be able to share my video. But yeah, just very happy to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. I will be talking about the New Home Energy Storage Pilot, NHESP. Okay, so we can go to the next slide. Okay, so what I want to be talking today about is giving you an introduction to NHESP. I'm going to be discussing the budget and incentive levels, going over the reservation process, also the eligibility and participation requirements, along with our incentive payment process, and providing you with resources and contact information. And of course, if you guys have any questions, I'll be happy to respond to those. Bye. Okay, next slide. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so I'm going to be talking one before introduction.
I'm sorry, Vicky.
Yeah, we can go.
Go ahead. You're
Yes.
on the. You've got the slide there.
Yes, it actually is the slide before that. Before. There we go, there we go, there we go. Thank you. Okay, so the New Home Energy Storage Pilot, NHESP, provides incentives for the installation of approximately 2,400 energy storage battery systems on new single-family or multifamily residential housing developments that will be subject to Title 24 standards. Developers can install energy storage prior to tenant move-in, giving SCE the opportunity to evaluate whether this is a simpler, more cost-effective way to promote the installation of energy storage paired with solar photovoltaic compared to our other program that we have, which is the self-generation incentive program. Okay, we can move to the next slide. Okay, now budget and incentive levels. The NHESP will pay incentives in the form of rebates to building developers who install energy storage systems paired with solar PV in new residential dwellings prior to customer occupancy. We do have two budgets available, and the incentives vary by housing type. We have the general market or mixed use for an incentive rate of 13 cents watt hour with an initial budget of $3.1 million. And we also have a specialty budget, the affordable housing, which will be used the same criteria for single family and multifamily developments, except for final occupancy, is our equity budget. It is indicated in the self-generation incentive program handbook. Okay, this budget has a little bit more lucrative incentive rate of 74 cents watt hour and has an initial budget of $1 million. There is one caveat though, if the affordable housing funds are not used within 12 months, the remaining funds will be transferred over to the general market. Okay. One slide, please. Okay, so now let's talk about the reservation process. We are accepting applications through November 2024, and applicants can download the reservation request form and project site report and apply by sending a complete application via email to nhesp@sce.com. The process is very simple. Applications will be reviewed on a first come, first served basis until all available funds are reserved. And any request for an increase, of course, that will be considered separate. And during the reservation period, we will maintain a waitlist that includes valid applications for which funds are no longer available. And all these incentive funds for any council project will subsequently withdraw their application, will be released for immediate use for any projects that are on the waitlist. We will also be providing applicants with notice, confirming the reservation, and providing general information about providing construction and progress updates. And the program will run for 2 years from opening date. And customer eligibility. So participation in the pilot will be limited to builders of new residential housing subject to 2019 Title 24. Eligible developers may submit applications for batch reservations of energy storage incentives that will install the same storage make and model. There is a limit of 600 units per developer, and this is just to ensure that we get a mix of developers participating in this pilot. Okay, qualifications for affordable housing. They must demonstrate that it's a nonprofit builder status. They will also require permanent covenant on property title or documentation required to qualify for credits per the California Tax Allocation Committee. Okay, we can move to the next slide. Okay. Sorry, I added some animation there. Sorry about that. So let's talk about now about the eligibility and participation requirements. And although NHESB has a different budget and is separate from SGIP, SCE requires that the projects applying for incentives for the pilot comply with all technical and operational requirements in order to be consistent with the system performance and GHG reduction goals. So with that said, let's go over the requirements, starting with equipment eligibility. All equipment eligible for incentives must satisfy eligibility for SGIP's small residential storage budget, must also be eligible for SCE Schedule NEM or the new solar building plan, must also comply with established safety standards from the authority having jurisdiction. And we do have some system size and incentive caps. The final incentive will be capped at the total eligible incentive cost. And to maximize numbers of participating in the pilot, the incentive amount will be capped at 10 kW and 20 kWh of energy storage. This roughly translates to about 15,300 for affordable housing and about 2,700 for general market or mixed use. Okay, so now for the warranty requirements, they must comply with SGIP service contract and warranty requirements, and there is a minimum 10-year warranty as well. Okay, so dwelling eligibility. It is intended to be occupied by a single SCE end-use customer with an individual meter, and it does require a dedicated solar PV system to be installed during the construction of the dwelling. This is prior to first-time occupancy by a permanent resident, and it must be a single-family home, duplex, multifamily, where the PV and energy storage systems are installed at the dwelling, meaning no VNEM or community solar are eligible. Okay, and if we can go to the next slide. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the good part. The incentive payments. Before that, incentive payments. There we go. Okay, so this is the good part. So the applicant may submit their request for payments, which correspond to 50% of the applicable incentive amount after completing each milestone. So we do have the first payment, which is following SCE's on-site inspection. And the on-site inspection can be requested at any time prior to receiving final certificate of occupancy or PTO, but it must have a final permit approval from the local permitting authority. So the applicant can submit the initial package, which includes information about the dwelling addresses, meter information, service account, and also the final system size, PP, and energy storage. If no deficiencies are found, SCE will issue the payment, the 50% payment, within 30 days of the completion of the ICF. We also have the second payment. So this is once the system has received permission to operate and completion of the system programming, the applicant may submit a request for a second and final incentive payment of the 50% of the incentive payment. Same as with the initial ICF, SCE will issue the payment within 30 days of the final ICF approval. We do have also an end user customer engagement after the project has been completed. And this is basically to provide information to the customer about benefits of integrating the energy storage to the installation of the PV system, including flexibility and customer electricity use, and also about the environmental benefits. This information is going to be provided to the customer via printed material, live webinars, or even electronic means, for example, videos or interactive guides. The end user, however, does have a responsibility and they must switch over to an SGIP approved rate, meaning for Edison, it's time of use prime or time of use 5 to 8. And last slide. Next, please.
Hey, Vicki.
Yes.
It's Chris. We're running out of time, so thank you.
Okay, that's it. I'm done. Actually, resource and information, and I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think we'll have time for just a question or two, but before that, I want to thank all of our expert presenters today. They were excellent, and I hope this was helpful and informative to all of our guests that joined. I do want to answer a couple of questions. This was recorded, and also we will work with our presenters to get all of the slides posted, and we should have the recording and the slide presentations posted on our CBIA website. For those questions we can't get to here in the next couple minutes, please feel free to reach out. Each of our presenters gave their contact information. If you didn't get it, you can get it on the slide when we post it, or please reach out to me directly at CBIA or my colleague Beth Harris, who helped put on this presentation today. A couple questions let me get to. One was on the Cal Electric Homes program. So I think this might be you, Melinda. Can you get both the Cal EHP and the Cal Energy Smart Home Incentive? Can you get both?
That's a good question. We incentive share on the base incentives, but the bonus incentives from each program are available to all projects.
Okay, great. And another follow-up on the Cal Electric Homes program. Is the Cal EHP incentive a cash rebate?
Yes, we pay cash rebates, and the incentives, the rebates come from TRC rather than a utility. So here's a face with the name. You can reach out if your incentive is delayed.
All right, thanks. And time for one last question. Bob, I think this popped up when you were giving your presentation. There was some question about whether the prevailing wage requirement nullifies the tax incentive.
It doesn't nullify the tax incentive. It would just reduce the tax incentive. So if it's not a prevailing wage project, a multifamily non-prevailing wage project, the maximum incentive would be $1,000, $500 for Energy Star and $500 for Zero Energy Ready. But you never know. It might qualify just the way it's built. So doesn't hurt to check and see if you don't need to spend any additional money and still get $1,000.
Okay. Thank you, Bob. Well, we're coming up on the top of the hour, so that's all the time we have for questions today. But again, one last thank you to all of our presenters. And again, for questions we didn't get to or any follow-up questions, please reach out to any of them directly or myself or Beth Harris at CBIA, and we will get the presentation and those slides posted on the CBIA website. Hopefully later today or tomorrow, we'll get them up very soon. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. We really appreciate it and hope this was helpful. Thank you. Have a good day.